Welcome to the Deep Dive Q&A edition. Ian is contentedly sipping a Topo Chico. I'm sitting here excited and eager to talk about Texas sports, and specifically, of course, Texas football. We may even have a couple of other little things that we get into at the end. Ian, how the hell are you?
I'm doing good. I'm refreshed. Been working on this.
Yeah,
While you and Connor blab.
I've told Ian that I love Topo Chico, and he's like a dog with a toy who's like taunting another dog and like keeps showing it to him. He keeps making sure to take a long, slow swig of it. It's all right. I'll go get mine here in a second. Hey, what you guys need to do to get the best Texas football info is make sure you like this video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Of course, we want to hear your comments. And of course, we want to see you at Inside Texas. It is the best and most lively place to talk sports and college sports and specifically Texas sports that exists on God's green earth. Ian, you ready to take some Q&A from the people?
I'm ready.
Let's do this. All right. First question. What do y'all anticipate will be the bread and butter / go-to play for the Texas offense this year? Do you have a different play you like better for this offense? Ian, what say you?
This is a little tricky. I mean, I think that the deep post, deep over route combination on play action is going to be a big part of the offense. I don't know about go-to, though. That's more of like an opportunity play than it is It's
a setup. It's a punishment play for the setup, right?
Yeah. And maybe the threat of it opens up a lot.
What do you think about just core RPOs? Don't you think that'll be the core? Would that be the core mainstay of this offense?
Yeah, probably. I almost want to say they're going to run a lot more gap this year.
Do you think that'll be counter Trey?
I don't think it'll be a specific one. I wonder if like inside zone will be the most common run play, even if gap is an enormous chunk. So what do you think?
What do you think our bread and butter play was last year?
Man, maybe play action, sort of leak play with the tight end.
I would say outside zone.
Yeah, outside zone, yeah.
And then tight end leak.
Yeah.
Especially earlier in the year.
That was Trey Wisner was the leading rusher and Gunnar Helm was the leading receiver. And a lot of that was those two things.
Yeah, I think so. For the passing game this year, I think it's going to be deep post. I think it's going to be RPO, different permutations of the RPO with the P part of the RPO. And I think, as you said, it's going to be the over where a guy's lined up on one side and he's actually running to the opposite corner. So it's kind of a fade, but the reason we call it an over is we're communicating that a guy's crossing the field, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what's going to be. Run game, I think it's going to be gap schemes. More of that, at least. Hey, I think our run game, I wouldn't be shocked if we either stumble into an identity early or we kind of shelve things at some point and kind of rejigger it at some midseason point. We'll see.
Well, they're going to show a lot in week 1. And then we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, we're not going to save any playbook in week 1.
Yeah.
But I don't mind that. All right.
Is there a different play you like better for this offense than what? Is there something, maybe another way to phrase that, is there something you want to see in the offense this year?
Arch throws bombs, Ian. Throw bombs, Arch.
I want to see a little more. Well, I want to see a lot more than we've seen in the last couple of years. I want to see more 4 wide and empty spread passing. Because I think Arch can do it. I think injuries is great for it. And you can really mess with teams when you do that if you have the right pieces.
I agree. We shall see. That will reveal some of Sark's basic predilections of whether he's just a base 11 guy or base 12 guy. We'll see. We shall see. All right, next question. Who are the top non-starters on offense and defense that could help us win a game this season? I love this question because it's very perceptive because if you think about it, there have always been guys who come off the bench or get a larger role as the year goes on who have absolutely played a role in winning a game for us. And it always happens. So who are they going to be?
Well, I mean, last year's Colin Simmons was counted in that regard.
Yes. He effectively forced his way into the starting lineup, though, eventually, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that makes Trey Moore a candidate here. I don't know if Trey Moore is going to start next season, but
I think he might.
Where?
Linebacker.
We'll see.
We shall.
Whoever loses and all that is going to be a nice piece. If it's LaFau, if it's whoever.
Let's narrow in on that, because I think that is an area where you'll have some individual games where a Ty Anthony Smith, a LaFau, or Trey Moore absolutely show out at linebacker.
Or Brad Spence.
Or Brad Spence, the Arkansas edition, who's a really good blitzer, and they claim that he's a pretty good traditional linebacker off the ball too. So I think any one of those guys, or possibly all of those guys, could have a game where they shine. And then the next week, maybe the guy gets 15 snaps just because of the opponent and how things fall. So that's one place to look. I guess by definition, some defensive tackles could assert themselves in the hierarchy as the year progresses.
Yep.
And help us win games. I'm going to say Vosick. I think if that guy can get healthy, and he's never healthy, if he can get healthy, he is a difference maker potentially, even coming in playing 20, 25 snaps.
Yeah. He's a good backup for Burke, or potential supplanting figure in that same position. Whoever plays in like dime, Jonah Williams, Rubel, whoever it is. Who?
Roberson.
Yeah, whoever it is, one of those guys is likely to end up being pretty important. And whoever that is also liable to be a special teams weapon.
Yeah.
Which can make a difference. They should be a lot better with like at the gunner spots and the schemed up kick blocker position, whatever that is, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. The Keelan Robinson / Taft position.
Yeah.
What about on offense? Who are guys that we think can help us win a game? I guess pick your running back.
Right.
Whoever that might be, whoever gets the hot hand in any given game, right? What about wide receiver? We're pretty sure Parker Livingstone is going to be the third wide receiver?
No, I would think it'd be Mosley, Moore, Wingo.
So maybe it's Parker Livingstone.
Could be Livingstone.
You know,
he
could you see a game where he has 3 catches for 93 yards and a touchdown? You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah.
Just rotate in, catch some bombs from Arch. And then everybody wonders why he doesn't do that every week.
Yeah.
It'd be nice if Spencer Shannon was able to give Texas good snaps in 12 personnel blocking. I'm not counting on that, but if he can do it, that'd be really helpful.
It would be.
Like, you could end a lot of games with that package if you have that option. Keep some tread on Arch's tires.
Is there an offensive lineman that you see as like first off the bench? This is a guy who can come in and start 2 games for us and we'll be just fine.
It'd probably be Connor Robertson right now, I think.
Yeah, just experience factor. What about Andre Kojo?
Maybe. I mean, I haven't really seen these guys play very much. They didn't give us a spring game to evaluate.
Yeah, just seeing people being able to move around in a spring game is helpful.
Yeah.
Sucks. I consider it a personal attack from Sark.
Hopefully not Matthew Caldwell, but that's why he's there.
Don't even wish that into existence, Ian. How dare you? All right, next question. You know what? We're not going to go to the next question. I'm going to give you an answer, Ian. And the answer is, who should I go with for my mortgage? The answer is Gabe Winslow. Write down these digits right now. Pretend this is a supermodel at a bar and it's closing time. 832-557-1095. Why Gabe? Over 20 years in the industry. He's got a law degree, former National Merit Scholar. Of course, he's a UT grad, but he's happy to help anyone, of course. And he's phenomenal at what he does. I swear to God, every time I talk to this guy, he's being flown around on some different award trip that he won for being an outstanding broker and basically kicking ass in the great state of Texas. And if you're not in Texas, he'll still help you out. He's licensed in some other states, or he knows really good people in other states, or he'll just help you out. Like literally, if you're trying to do a mortgage in Connecticut and you're trying to deal with someone, he'll help you just because he's a mensch. He'll help you out and tell you how to get the best possible deal. That's the kind of guy I want to do business with. That's Gabe Winslow. 832-557-1095.
Is that word from German or is it from Yiddish?
Mensch?
Yeah.
It is German. Is it German? Like Übermensch.
Right. That's one of my favorite terms.
Oh, you know what? It might be Yiddish, but when you say something's Yiddish, you're also just saying it's like kitchen German. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The Mensch spelling of MENSCH, that's German. I think there's also like a pigeonized kitchen sort of Yiddish of Mensch that I think it's popularized through Jewish culture. That's how we know it.
Right.
But it's a German word.
They have so many great
Übermensch.
They have so many great words that are like insults or terms of endearment.
Yes.
And that one is one of my favorites, I think.
Yeah. I also like calling money shekels. I enjoy that. All right. Part one. We've got a little multi-parter question here. Curious if this is too big for deep dive Q&A. Nothing's too big for deep dive Q&A, man. It's the deep dive. But what are your best recruiting practices in 2025? What spots get NIL high school focus versus cost-effective development guides? So Ian and I have actually addressed this very topic on a dedicated deep dive a couple of times in different ways. Let's give the quick cliff notes. We know that as SARC does, we want to dedicate a lot of time, energy, effort, and spots to the line, to the trenches on both sides of the ball. Is that fair?
Yep.
Part of that is the understanding that offensive linemen have a long development timeline. Not everybody can be Kelvin Banks. And defensive tackles, interesting characters that they are, have a very high bust rate. So that's something you want to kind of just throw numbers at it. What else did we talk about? We don't mind having a shortage of scholarships at wide receiver generally.
Yep.
Because your third string wide receiver is not a happy camper. He thinks in his mind, he believes he's the best athlete on that team and he can't believe he's not starting. And then secondly, there's only so many wide receivers you can play, particularly in Sark's methodology. And you can always go grab a wide receiver in the portal. Not always guaranteed, despite this year, that you can go grab defensive tackles, right?
Yeah. You basically, I think our summation would be you need to go for rare genetics out of high school.
Yep.
And you can go light on the common genetics positions and pick them out with a portal. Or like receiver, quarterback, some of these spots, the things that the traits may be genetic that are super important, but they are harder to scout until you've seen them against college competition.
Every time we discuss this, and by the way, I think we're correct and we're using it correct. We sound like late 19th century eugenics people who study phrenology. Like you talked about common genetics. That's awesome. But it's true. I mean, you know what we're talking about. You've got to grow those guys and get them and secure them early. And people say, well, hey, defensive tackles have a high bust rate. Why do that? Well, you get first shot at it. I mean, it's easier to retain than it is to go acquire, especially a defensive tackle. All right, part two.
And they flush out. They don't sit on your roster for forever.
That's right.
Yeah.
Part two, which positions do you go light thinking you'll fill via the portal? We mentioned wide receiver. What other positions do you feel maybe comfortable go grabbing in the portal?
I think there's some pros and cons to doing that like they did this year at the specialist spots. On the one hand, you kind of have to overpay to get a good kicker or punter out of the portal. And that's feels pretty lame to spend big to outbid people on a freaking punter. But how many times have we seen people get the really talented? It feels to me, and this is surely wrong, it feels to me like every time Texas has got a guy where people are like, this guy is a sure thing kicker or punter, does invariably the guy that ends up busting.
And then some walk-on becomes the hero.
Yeah. There's like a mental eval component to it. It's almost like you're evaluating golfers or something. They have to be like locked in to do this repetitive task, no matter what's going on around them. I wish they did this more with receiver. And I kind of wish, I don't necessarily think they should do this at quarterback. And I also kind of think they should. Sark very much does not believe in the portal as the answer at quarterback.
Yeah, I understand his viewpoint. He wants to select and pick and groom his guys. And we have the ability to secure good guys. And Sark trusts and believes in his ability to evaluate those guys. So that said, boy, transfer quarterbacks have dominated the landscape in college football as Heisman winners, as national title winners, as teams that have as guys who have elevated their team substantially. And we're talking about Dylan Gabriel, Cam Ward,
Will Howard.
I mean, just like all the highest rated quarterbacks coming in, by the way, Quinn Ewers, right? All the highest rated quarterbacks last year coming in were all transfers, basically. So, I think you can make a reasonable argument either way. I don't have a particular predilection, actually. Where I actually feel that I would deviate a little bit is running back. I'm comfortable going and acquiring running backs in the portal. I like one true recruit running back every year, and then I would fill and supplement through the portal. I view them as kind of fungible, like commodities. Also, running backs view themselves that way. So if you have like 6 on your roster, you're not going to have 6 for long. They're going to self-select out anyway because they're not getting the rock. And honestly, I love the idea of trying to strike it rich with the 18-year-old phenom. Like, so I'd take one a year. But when you don't, why not just use the portal? I mean, and there is no other position or skill position where you could actually get guys who level up from the lower levels, the minor leagues, who actually level up pretty well and they're cheap. So to me, that makes perfect sense.
That's also very much one of the positions where guys, their abilities manifest differently in college.
Yeah.
Like high school, there's like a few guys that get themselves one way or another to the Alito or the Katy or the big school that always has great lines and blocks for them. And then the best athletes that go to those schools are the 5-star recruits. It's like this guy ran for 2,000 yards. But then there's like 3 or 4 other guys that are either just like him or will be after a few years of college. And they go all over the country.
Yeah.
All different levels.
I agree. And then high school tape, I always laugh at running back tape because they're like, oh, look at this guy. He's amazing. And it's like, no one touched him the first 13 yards of this carry. I'm not sure what he did that was amazing.
Yeah.
That's always a problem. All right, next question. Is it wrong to sometimes feel sorry for some Aggies because of the sports suffering they must endure? Notice the caveat of some Aggies, not Aggies globally. Is it wrong? Ian, this is a very important question. And I think the average person will give an answer that is wrong. And I'll explain why. But go ahead. Let's see if you give the wrong answer.
I think that there are, the concept of purgatory?
I'm familiar.
I think there are benefits to the Aggies from their suffering. Part of me sometimes wonders if they could just win a national championship, if they would have a lot of tension, let's say, released, and they would just be different. I kind of
carry themselves differently as people.
I kind of doubt it. I think this is just something that they need to bear for their entire lives, and maybe someday they learn something.
Fair enough, but is it wrong to feel sorry for them, Ian?
Well, you don't have to feel sorry for them because you can see that there are benefits to their suffering. It's building character.
This is building their character, that fundamental Aggie grit.
Yes.
That's good.
Whatever.
I'll take a swing at this.
Go ahead.
It is not wrong, but sorry isn't the correct word. Pity. It is correct to pity them for their burden and their suffering, because it also sets up a proper level of condescension from you to them, which only infuriates them more as Aggies because they believe that we're condescending to them anyway. Right?
Well,
so when you pity them,
they're secret kings. It's always like we're actually the best and the strongest, and we adhere to the right traditions, and the Longhorns think they're great, but they're not. And someday, by God, the scoreboard will reflect this truth that we carry down in our hearts.
It's Tigger in Winnie the Pooh. As you recall, Tigger will often make claims that Tiggers are the bestest, whatever, fill in the blank. And then someone will say, well, do it then, Tigger. And he'd fold his arms and say, I choose not to. So there's an element of that. But I think it's very important to demonstrate pity and to do it in the, oh, bless your heart, sort of condescending, passive-aggressive Southern way. I think pity sets up exactly the right construct. Because pity isn't actual true care. Pity is just like, oh, poor you. Bless your heart. So that, I think that's the answer to my question. Are you sticking with yours, Ian?
I like yours.
All right. I like yours as well.
I'm not confident. I like mine, but I'm not confident that any of them actually learn anything from their suffering.
It may not also be theologically sound.
No, it's fine.
Okay. All right.
The theology of suffering exists.
Okay.
We can lift it from the catechism for evangelicals like me. There's no problem.
Okay. But we all agree purgatory is in College Station.
Yeah.
Okay. It's near Dixie Chicken. They should open a bar called Purgatory, by the way. All right. Let's go to our next question. Please address the ambiguities of the War of 1812. I think this is a war with many ambiguities, and an interesting war that is not often properly or fully taught. Not that anything is fully or properly taught anymore in our history. But Ian, do you have any thoughts on the ambiguities of the War of 1812?
I had a classmate in high school who, after studying the War of 1812, described it as England losing interest and giving up, and then us declaring victory from the fetal position.
There's probably some truth to that.
Yeah, that's a little harsh, but he was thinking of the part where they raided the shoreline and burned down Washington, D.C.
Burned down the White House as we fled with the China. Also, we had a disastrous expedition up to Canada to try to annex it that didn't work out for us. However, here's another one of those ambiguities. And the weird thing, Britain, the preeminent sea power of that time and that era, in the War of 1812, the U.S. wins a stunning number of small naval victories over the British, which is weird. And then also they have a crushing victory after the war is over. A week later, the treaty for the war is negotiated in Ghent, and word doesn't get back in time. And in the Battle of New Orleans happens, Andrew Jackson, of course, leads the American soldiers in a crushing victory, the biggest victory on either side of the war, and they're actually outnumbered against the Brits and utterly annihilate the British force. And those poor Brits find out they died in a war that was already over. Oh, sorry. That war also launched the political careers of Andrew Jackson and William Henry Harrison, Tippecanoe and Tyler too.
Yep.
Also,
one of those rather more consequential than the other.
That's right. Yeah, I'd say Andrew Jackson probably made his mark slightly more than Harrison. But interestingly, here's an ambiguity of this war. If you look in the great span of history, and you and I are both history majors, and we like comparative history and kind of the vast sweep of it, the grievances of the colonies in the war, the Revolutionary War, Britain was not the most oppressive tyrant that ever existed. Let's be fair.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
But ironically, and we kind of inflate them and to give us our justification for the war because we want to be smugglers and avoid taxes. Fair. I like that. The War of 1812, we were legitimately being oppressed and impressed. And what I mean by that is over 10,000 American sailors were kidnapped and forcibly enrolled into the British Navy leading up to this war, which is a pretty serious grievance for most nations. Like, you kidnapped and put into servitude 10,000 of our sailors because you don't recognize them as belonging to a country. And then secondly, the Brits, the English, armed all the Indians, specifically the Shawnee and Tecumseh, on the frontier and encouraged them to go attack American settlements. Another justification for war. So you could argue the War of 1812, we had a much better justification for war than we did in the Revolutionary War.
Yeah, the idea of arming guerrillas to wreak havoc on other people's civilians with terrorism is a very long-standing practice in human conflict.
True.
I kind of wish that there was a subplot in Master Commander where, I don't know if the timelines add up. I don't remember when that movie's supposed to take place. But it'd be funny if there was like an American dude somewhere that had just been like impressed onto that vessel.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Maybe if they were doing
or they encounter a random American merchant ship and Russell Crowe's like, hey, we need 6 more crew. We had some guys die of smallpox. You 6, you're now English sailors. Like, what?
Yeah.
I'm from Maryland. Not anymore. Swear an oath to the crown or we'll whip you and keel haul you. Yeah. So one of the many ambiguities of the War of 1812, for those of you who didn't know, the war began in 1812. That's the other fact.
Yeah, it lasted longer than just 1 year.
True. Just like the 100 Years' War lasted about 130 years. So we're not very precise definitionally with wars, but, you know, it gives you some broad idea.
Have you ever heard the old song, The Battle of New Orleans?
Yeah, like I'm sure I've heard it. Yeah, a long time ago.
Like old style, like from the 40s or something.
Is it sufficiently rousing and patriotic?
Well, it's really funny because they're like singing about like Andrew Jackson like shooting cannonballs out of alligators' mouths at the Brits and chasing them into foxholes and stuff. It's like the whole song is just a big slam dunk on the Brits.
Was it ever featured in Schoolhouse Rock? That's how I would know it.
No, it's way older than that.
Okay, I'll have to go check it out. I'm going to Google the lyrics after this.
Yeah, listen, it's outstanding.
All right, good stuff. I'll have to check it out. All right, so I think we've hit some Texas football. I think we've addressed a key but underexamined war in our great history where we put in a mixed performance, let's say. And we're not hoping for a mixed performance from the Texas Longhorns this year. Thanks, y'all, for watching. Thanks for sticking around. We'll look forward to your comments. Hit that like, hit that subscribe. We'll see you over at Inside Texas. Y'all take care.